Imagine, if you will, that you are in the locker room and you're preparing yourself for a big game. You've spent months training, studying the plays, listening to the coach's instructions, and psyching yourself up to play this big game. Now it's almost time to take the field, but first, it is time for the coach to give his pre-game speech in order to really fire up the team. As the coach walks into the room, he has a commanding presence. He looks ready to burst out with energetic pontifications that are sure to excite. As he begins to speak, you lean in close so you don't miss a single word when it should be an epic speech. People, the coach begins, it's time to go out there into the field. It's time to play this game. You have been training and you are ready. But before you get out there, I want to let you know that what you're about to do is not going to be easy. In fact, I would reckon to say people are going to hate you for it. You will most likely suffer for it. I can bet that you will be rejected, you will be unwelcome, you will be hated. Your children, they'll rise up against you and despise you. And your family, well, they'll probably disown you. Most in society will either respond to you with offense or they'll just flat out ignore you. So, who's with me? I can imagine that this isn't the pep talk that we would expect to hear before playing a big game, nor do I think this is what the disciples expected Jesus to say as he prepared them to go out into the villages of Israel to proclaim the good news, heal the sick, and cast out demons. I mean, could you imagine if the only thing I said at the end of worship was, go in peace, oh, and by the way, the world's probably going to hate you. And yet, one of the characteristics of Matthew's gospel is that it does cause us to have to wrestle with harsh truths about being Christians in the world. There is truth in Jesus' words to the disciples for proclaiming a kingdom that is grounded in God's love, which then frees us to love others, is not something the world wants to hear. And the world doesn't want to hear it because God's kingdom rejects power. It chooses to place the other above the self. It chooses to work out of a lens of equality where all people have equal status as beloved children. This understanding of the kingdom does not compute in our world that thrives on hierarchy and power. The wisdom of society is found in uplifting the individual as most important, which gives us this false pretense that we are more important than we really are in life. And with that false sense of importance comes this false sense that we are more privileged to power and rights than the other. Of course, it is this false sense of our importance that has caused us to stop listening to each other, as well as get so easily offended when someone disagrees with us. Society has convinced us that our opinion on things is the only one that really matters because it has convinced us that I, the self, is the only important individual in the room. And so because of this, we fight with each other. We try and gain power over the other. We try and tear each other down verbally or physically. We spread lies about each other, and we manipulate because we think it is all about gaining the most power and privilege over anyone else. This is also why power is taken away from us, such as by a boss at work. We will try and find other ways to recover that power by other means. For some, this leads to unhealthy behaviors like bullying or abuse. But the harsh truth that we face is that this is the world we live in. a world where everyone is striving to gain more power over the other, a world where we have come to believe that our self is most important. And this is why the world tries everything in its power to reject the good news of God's kingdom. The good news of Jesus Christ brings with it a message that is countercultural, because it is a message of selfless love that does not seek out power or privilege over the other. In fact, it is a message that a lot of the time centers on the powerless. Jesus shows us through the cross that the only way to defeat the sting of death is to deny all power and die for those who are powerless. For no matter how much power we might have in terms of wealth or material goods or social status or job title, none of it can stop the power of death nor get rid of sin. We are powerless to stop it. But what did overcome death was love. Christ's love. A love that is so abundant it gave itself to death in order that we would be saved. And in doing so, salvation was brought to the entire cosmos. Now, because we have been tied to Christ through baptism, death cannot claim us forever, nor can sin fully destroy us, for Christ's love is the true power that brings new life. Again, it is a power that was given in powerlessness. You see, the world knows that if people are transformed by this understanding of Christ's love, if we come to realize that it is God's love which truly sets us free, if we begin to practice this love, a love that seeks to serve the other and deny power, well, then there will be no need to strive to gain power or privilege over others, which is the basis for evil. And so because we bring a greater power to the world through Christ's love, which in doing so causes us to deny our own power that we may try to lord over others so that they too may be loved. The world may try to hate us. For there is no greater fear, there is no greater threat to the powerful than that of losing their power. But that is exactly what Jesus does through the cross. Jesus takes what we, the world, think is powerful and makes it weakness. And what we, the world, thinks is weakness becomes the most powerful act of all. An act of love. An act of sacrifice that frees the entire world. But Jesus is right. Because this good news is so transformative and against the way the world works right now, it is hard to proclaim it in our society. And there will be many who will reject it and be angry with us. Some may even try to silence us in any way that they can because of it. But as St. Paul reminds us in our epistle, that even though we will suffer in doing this work, which, by the way, it should be noted that Jesus doesn't give the disciples a choice to do this work. Even though we will suffer in doing this work because the world will try to reject the message we bring, we can be assured that we have been given Christ's peace and that we are justified by grace, which means that no matter what happens, we can be assured that we will remain God's beloved child. That Christ has already claimed us. There is nothing that can define us except for God's love. And we can also be assured that because of that, the Holy Spirit will indeed work through us as it continues to help the world recognize that it is free to love with the equality of God's love. what is even more good news for us is in the fact that, yes, while we will suffer in doing this work of spreading the good news of Jesus, that suffering is not which will be getting the final say. That suffering will not be that which defines us, for God will be present with us in the midst of our suffering. And God will take that suffering and turn it into our hope. God will continue to show us signs of Christ's love and grace in the midst of our broken world, to remind us that the suffering we experience in proclaiming that good news is not which gets the final say. Instead, we will experience the wonderful signs of new life that will fuel our hope and help us carry on no matter how hostile the world may become. Because Jesus promises that we have peace. We are loved by God, and that He is with us forever as Emmanuel. And after all, Jesus does finish his pep talk by telling us, "Truly I tell you, you will not have gone through all the towns in Israel before the Son of Man comes." In other words, what Jesus is saying to us is, truly I tell you, the work may not be finished before I call you home. And at times you will feel overwhelmed, and you will feel like it may not even matter. But I promise you, because I am with you, because you have my love, you will make a difference. For I will use you as my hands. And the love that I show through you will transform others, will transform your community, will transform the world. So yes, the task is difficult and ever ongoing.